Good afternoon, Professor Hoyte. Today I will present my final project titled Relationship between Weekly Study Hours and Academic Performance Among Higher Education Students. The purpose of this project was to investigate a simple but important question. Do students who spend more time studying each week actually tend to have higher GPAs? To answer this question, I analyzed data from 145 higher education students and used both Excel and statics. Next one, please. Uh, My question was in there statistically significant associations between weekly study hours and cumulative GPA among these 145 students. Based on this question, I established two hypotheses. The first one, the null hypothesis, states that there is no statistically significant monotonic associations between weekly study hours and cumulative GPA. But the second one is completely the opposite. The alternative hypothesis states that there is statistically significant monotonic associations between these variables. I use significance level of alpha equals 0.05. Next one. Uh, Next. The data came from higher education students' performance evaluation data from the UCI machine learning repository. The dataset contains 145 students with no missing values. For this project, I select two variables. The first variable was weekly study, which contains five order categories ranging from no study time to more than 20 hours per week. The second variable was cumulative GPA, which is also divided into five order categories. This distinction is very important because are ordinal categorical variables, not exact continuous measurements. For example, dataset does not tell us that a student studied exactly 14 hours. Instead, that a student would belong to the 11 to 20-hour category, for example. Okay, next one, please. Now, why Spearman? Because both variables are ordinal. I select Spearman rank correlation coefficient as the main statistical test. I did not use Pearson correlation because Pearson is more appropriate when working with continuous quantitative measurement. In this case, the observation represents order categories. Spearman correlation allows us to determine the strength and the direction of monotonic relationship between those order variables. In simple terms, I just wanted to determine whether students moving into higher study hour categories also tended to move into higher GPA categories. I performed the analysis in Excel and then independently check the result using statistics. As we can see in the next one slide. Yeah, here it is. Now we arrive at the main statistical result. The sample size was 145 students, and the Spearman rank correlation coefficient was 1.04628. Statistics report a critical correlation value of plus or minus 0.16 333, at the 0.05 significance level. Therefore, the absolute value of 0.04628 is smaller than 0.16333. This means that the observed correlation does not reach the threshold required for statistical significance. An important part of my procedure was verification. I calculate the relationship using Excel, then check it independently using statics. Both methods produce the same correlation coefficient after rounding. As you can see on the screen, I have pictures of both evidence here. Next one, please. Yeah. Now, what does a correlation of 0.04628 actually mean? The coefficient is positive but is extremely close to zero. Therefore, the relationship between weekly study hours in the sample was extremely weak and practically negligible. Students who reported higher study hour categories did not consistently appear in higher GPA categories. Therefore, I do not reject the null hypothesis. There is insufficient statistical evidence in this sample to conclude that weekly study hours cumulative GPA have significant monotonic relationship. However, this does not mean that studying is useless or study time has no effect on academic performance. Of course not. It only means that weekly study hours alone were not significantly associated with GPA in this particular data set. As we can see in the next one, I decided to use this question. Why might this happen? What are our limitations in this? During this, what were our limitations during this investigation? There are several possible explanations of this result. First, study quantity is not necessarily the same as study. Two students may study for the same number of hours, but use the time very differently. Factors such as concentration, learning strategies, attendance, motivation, and previous academic preparation might influence performance. Second, there is an important measurement limitation. The dataset used broad categories instead of exact values. For example, a student studying 11 hours and another studying 20 hours are placed in the same category. This reduces some of the variation between students. Finally, the sample contains only 145 students from this particular dataset. Therefore, I would be cautious about generalizing these results to all university students. These limitations might help explain why study hours alone show such a weak relationship with GPA. Now that we are going to finish in the next slide, we can see the final conclusions. Next one. In conclusion, this project investigates whether higher weekly study hour categories were associated with higher cumulative GPA categories among 145 education students. Using Spearman's rank correlation, I obtained coefficient of 0.04628, which did not extend the critical value of 0.16333. Therefore, the new hypothesis was not rejected. Keep in mind that the most important conclusion is not that the study does not matter. Rather, the number of hours alone does not appear to explain academic performances in this sample future. In this sample, excuse me. Why? Because we will have future researchers, and this could improve this analysis, by using exact study hours, exact GPA, values larger and more diverse samples, and additional variables such as learning strategies and motivation. Ultimately, this project demonstrates that, why statistics are useful as an assumption that seems intuitively obvious that more study hours automatically mean better grades can actually be tested using data. Thank you very much.